there, my name is Ashley Hansen and I'm an LPS in Eastern Iowa. Our hopes were to do our chick starter meetings in person, but with the coronavirus going around, we're playing it a little safe, and I'm going to be bringing my home and our chick information directly to your home via YouTube. So saddle up. Today we're going to talk briefly about starting chicks, layers, and broilers. So should be some information for everybody. Yes, it is geared towards a family that might be just starting into poultry, but it's a great reminder, some of the tips to making sure that your new chicks are as safe as possible and taken care of appropriately. So I'm excited to share this information with you guys today. To get started, a little bit of background on me. I'm from Muscatine, Iowa, and I showed poultry growing up. So we had quite a few grand champion chickens at our county fair, which was really fun. And also my brother and I started the broiler derby competition at the Muscatine County Fair. So very cool. Okay, so some fun facts. I don't know if you guys can read this. The screen was a little bit hard to read. But May 15th is Dance Like a Chicken Day officially. Very interesting. An egg has as many as 17,000 pores in it. Quite crazy. And chickens are thought to have about 30 different vocalizations. So ways to communicate. Very interesting. Okay, so when you're looking to get into chickens, they can provide a lot of different things to your family. One, of course, would be nutritious eggs, companionship. They're funny little things. They usually will kind of walk alongside you if you're outside, if they're free-range chickens. Of course, they're kind of entertainment, so they're cute. They scratch the ground. They're fun to look out your window and see the chickens scratching around. A huge thing that what I think is really great for families is it's an educational piece in learning and teaching your kids how to take care of livestock. So it's kind of an entry-level livestock, if you will. They're not extremely hard to take care of by any means. They're usually quite healthy. And so it's a great way to get your family started if they're interested, and you guys are interested in getting into livestock or just teaching responsibility. Also, the feces, so the chicken feces is a great tool to be used in composting, and chickens do a great job of insect control as they're pecking around. So, just a word of advice, and this is just to be funny, but chicks are adorable. You will want to be with them all the time. You'll probably name them, which is quite fun. So that's all inevitable. You're going to start bonding with other chicken owners via the internet or Facebook or just your friends. And I'm sure your phone will be full of chickens, those pictures, once you get your chicks or chickens. So, if you are interested in getting chicks for the first time, here's some things that you might consider, and really the things you need to enable you to get these chickens. One is, of course, housing. Two is plenty of space, high quality feed, clean, fresh water, protection from predators and the climate, and that's a biggie, as you can imagine. And you'll have to give up a portion of your daily routine, or add the routine of taking care of your chickens into your daily routine. And of course, lots of other chicken friends. So you might be asking or wondering how much space it takes to have each chicken. So it's about 10 square feet per adult bird. So about 2 to 3 square feet in the coop and about 7 to 8 square feet out in the run. Which, so let's be hypothetical here, and let's say you get 4 adult chickens. It would require about 10 feet inside the coop, 30 feet in the run, and that's square feet. So for a total of 40 square feet would be your ideal for 4 chickens. That's it. So a little more than 6 by 6 area. If you're going to get more chicken friends eventually, then you might want to make your space a little bit bigger when you're thinking about building your chicken coop and runs. Okay, before you really even get started, make sure to check your local ordinances to see if you can even have chicks in town. Now, and rurally too. There shouldn't be any issues there, but make sure to check. Also, if you're living in a suburban area, you might want to check if there's any laws in saying how many chicks you need to have. And then sometimes there's rules about if you can have roosters or not as well. So make sure to check into all that information, especially if you're thinking about having your chicks in town. So let's talk about how much time it's going to take you to take care of your chickens per day. Now, when I was growing up, really chores don't take very long. You're going to check them morning and night, and sometimes in the middle of the day if it's hot or very cold. And sometimes you're going to let them out during the day if they're free-range chickens. So you'd be looking at 10 to 15, maybe even 20 minutes per day, split into 2 time periods, so maybe 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night. In the morning, making sure they're fed and watered, same at night, and then locking them in. So you always want to have food and water, free choice available. You're going to want to be collecting the eggs, so that's going to be part of your daily routine. Something that I always did growing up was we cleaned the chicken coop on a weekend when we had a little bit more time. And that, if you have a nice linoleum floor, so it makes it nice and smooth, that's a pretty easy job too. And then, of course, pen them up at night. So it looks like our picture there got turned over, but that is a chick box. Let's talk about transportation. So these little chicks are so dang tiny and kind of fragile. I mean, very fragile, to be honest. And the transport in the box can be pretty dang stressful. So some tips would be to make sure there's air holes. And now this box doesn't have to be overly large, but make sure it's set on a flat surface, whether that's on the ground, preferably, of your vehicle. And if you can, ask and see if you can put or bring along some of the pine shavings or something like that to put on the bottom of the box so it's not so slippery. If it's overly slippery, there might be some issues where chicks might get injured or hurt a leg. Also, make sure your car is warm. I forgot to say that. Make sure your car is warm. Chicks do not like the cold. So they're just hatched. You brought them home. What are you going to do? Chicks do not have a winter coat. So they are just fluffy little things, and if they get cold, it does not end up well. You're going to have to make a temporary home for them in your house or somewhere that is heated. Now, round kiddie pools work out really well, or even better to some extent is a round cardboard circle. Now, we prefer round because then if there's a chick that's being picked on, he can easily escape. Instead of something that's square, they could be penned into a corner and get picked on. And that's not uncommon to have some chicks being picked on by others. So make sure there's room for food and water in there. And a huge thing is make sure it's not stuffy in that room. Keep ventilation going through there. That helps your chicks stay nice and healthy. And don't forget, if you have a cat or a tiny human, toddler, or little kid, make sure that they're not able to get into the room without proper being looked after by you. Okay, so this setup, if you can see it very well, is a brooder that is set up very well. So there are multiple food and water sources, and it's a nice circle pen with nice shavings in the middle, so nice and clean. It also has a heat lamp, and what's great about this picture is the chicks are not all crowded up right underneath the heat lamp, which indicates that it's probably too cold anywhere else in their pen. So this means that it's the proper temperature where they're up eating and drinking, which is really good. So For the first week, you want to keep it at 90 to 95 degrees in their little pen. You can drop it 5 degrees each week as they get older, but don't go lower than 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, pay attention. If the chicks are too hot or too cold, they will let you know. They're either going to not be anywhere close to your heat lamp, so out in the corners, or they're going to be all puddled up right underneath the heat lamp, which means they're too cold. It's too cold everywhere else. So they will tell you if the temperature is correct. Heat lamps are, of course, the traditional way. There's also things called radiant heaters, which are pictured over here, which are a little bit more safe in terms of not catching on things on fire. So that's something you might want to look into if you're thinking about having chicks quite a few times. Okay, so here is an example of when the temperature is correct. So over here, the chicks are all spread out. They're being lively. They're eating and drinking. Over here, that area is too cold for these chickens. They are huddled up. They are cuddling for warmth, if you will, and not really spending their energy eating and drinking, which we hope to do to keep them healthy. So at 6 weeks of age, it's time for some new demands. It's time for them to also get out of their small little pen that we made for them. It's time for them to get their keys to the coop, if you will. If it is colder than 60 degrees at night still, then I would consider keeping them inside for just a little bit longer, as that would be a pretty big shock to their system if it gets colder than 60 degrees at night still. If you want eggs, there's also a list of needs for your coop as well. Okay, so here are some things to keep in mind for your coop's design. So it needs to be big enough for all your chickens now and later when they're bigger. Big enough for you to get into to do chores morning and night. Well ventilated. Have nest boxes that can be accessed from the outside. Perches for them to roost on. Predator-proof locks. Coop and run area. Feeders, waterers. Probably electricity of some kind or supplemental lighting when you're doing chores at night. Protection from the elements, roof, shade, insulation potentially if you're going to be keeping your chickens over the winter. Draft free. Sometimes you want windows to help with ventilation during the summer. One thing that I think is huge is the linoleum floor. We put that in our chicken coop, and that made cleaning so much easier, where you can just sweep it up with a broom. And then it also doesn't keep the smell. It helps eliminate some of the smell. Okay, so coccidiosis can be an issue. Not all chicks are vaccinated at the hatchery, and really probably not a lot of them are. So if they aren't vaccinated, you should start them on a medicated chick starter. Now, the Purina Start and Grow medicated feed is available, as well as the homegrown Start and Grow has improlium, which helps avoid coccidiosis. And once you start feeding the medicated feed, you should stay on that until they start laying eggs. Then you don't have to have a medicated feed anymore. So that just helps keep your chicks healthy and growing correctly. Okay, so we want your chicks to live a long, healthy life, and your chickens too as well. So protecting your chicks will be important. And so really, if you build your coop in a correct way, there should be very little chances that they will be attacked by predators. So even though chicken wire is named chicken wire for a reason, I'm sure, likely you'll want something a little bit more heavy duty, or something that an animal couldn't pry apart to make a hole bigger or somehow get through that. Also, it's suggested that you bury the wires, if you're having your runs, into the ground so that something can't dig under it. So that's about 6 inches under the ground if you're going to have a run that's secured. Furthermore, we have a door that you can lock from the run. So at night, we not only lock the door at the front, but also the 2 doors that go into the runs that we had made, so that the chickens are all locked up at night. Okay, so if you're ever going to get any new birds down the road, it's important to quarantine these new birds for about 30 days to make sure that they don't have any diseases and aren't bringing that into your flock. And you don't really know what weird disease those chickens might have picked up. If you're getting them from a flea market or from a friend, you just don't know. So also when you add in, and that should be in a spot where they can't even see each other, it's far enough away that the disease would not spread to your chickens. Additionally, chickens can be a little bit aggressive when a new chick or chicken arrives in their flock. So one suggestion is to introduce the new chicken or chick at night. Make sure they're similar size or maturity, so they're not picked on. The little one is sometimes picked on. And try this Purina flock box, which will help them stay a little bit more distracted when they have this new person or new chick into their life. So this can help distract them so they're not picking at the new chicken that you introduced. Okay, so let's talk briefly about broilers. Now, broilers are typically a Cornish cross chicken. They are meant to grow very rapidly to produce meat, not to produce eggs. They need to be managed a little differently. They're bell drinkers, so they're going to have probably bigger drinkers, or waterers should be at breast height of the chickens, and they're going to grow rapidly. The reason for that is to make sure they're standing up, using their legs, keeping their legs strong, because these guys will just eat and lay down and eat and drink. So we want to keep their legs strong. Also, if you have a trough feeder, make sure to raise that as well. And when they're young, you can get away with about 1 inch space per chick. But as they get older, you might need to add feeders so there's enough room for 6 inches per chick, because they get pretty dang big pretty fast. So you want to make sure they can all eat at the same time. Good ventilation is probably even more important for broilers than it is for your layer chicks and hens. At full size, the chickens need about 1.3 square feet per bird minimum, so quite a bit there. Also, there's some tips to lighting to help them grow faster. So up to 7 days old, only have 1 hour of darkness in the area you're keeping your chicks. After 7 days old, you will want 4 to 6 hours of darkness. And typically, these chickens are harvested at 7 to 8 weeks of age, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on what size of chicken you want. But they're a product that's really quick. So if you have a child that might be interested in showing some chickens at the fair, or just want a quick project, broilers might be that for you guys. Okay, chickens are not picky about what they eat, but there are some really good options. The Purina LPS product comes in a crumble and a pellet. Some people think that the pellet has a little bit less waste. That's why that's an option there. The Purina LPS Plus Omega, now that is the omega-3 fatty acids are actually higher than in your eggs when you eat them. So very interesting, a way to maybe get a little bit more nutrition for you and your family in the egg. And then there's a Purina organic layer as well. So there's some couple different options there. We also have the homegrown layer, which is a very common choice as well, and a little bit more cost-effective price point. Also, chickens love scratch grains, but they can kind of get addicted to them and gorge themselves on it. So limit to scratch grains to about 10% of their diet, and don't let them eat that product until they're 18 weeks of age. And they, once again, really don't mind eating the same thing day after day. They're not like humans. Okay, so here's some options for Start and Grow products. This is our Purina Start and Grow. It's a crumble form. It's an 18% protein. All our starters are 18% protein for chickens. They can have a medicated option and a non-medicated option. The medicated is with Amprolium. So this would be the Purina homegrown version of Start and Grow. It's a crumble form. It's also 18% and comes in a medicated and non-medicated form as well. So this one is just a little bit more cost effective. It maybe doesn't have the bells and whistles as the Purina Start and Grow. We have the Purina Layena product, which is our ultra premium line for our chickens that are layers. And it's a 16% protein, so a little bit lower protein. Comes in crumbles or pellets. And has the oyster strong system in it. So the oyster shells are actually in the feed itself. When I was growing up, you always had to add oyster into it, which can be a little cumbersome. So it's really nice that that's already in the feeds. It's non-medicated, and you could start feeding the laying feed at the first egg that you see produced, or at 18 weeks. Okay, so we're going to get a little bit gross for a second and talk about what comes out of a chicken butt. So guess what, chicken butt? Let's discuss their feces. So, now chickens will produce about 50 pounds of manure per year per chicken. This is adult chickens. So it's great for composting. So here's a little picture of what normal manure looks like. It looks weird, and your garden will love it though, I promise. So here's a picture of our chicken feces. Chickens do not urinate. They excrete uric acid, which is the white part here. Very interesting. And it can kind of provide a window into the health of your chickens. So pay attention to their feces, even though it doesn't sound fun, but just like any other animal, make sure that it's looking the same as it did when they were healthy. If there is a change in the look to their feces, then maybe that's an indication that something might be wrong. Okay, so chickens will start laying eggs at 18 to 20 weeks of age. They will continue to lay very strong for 3 years, so really consistently for 3 years. They will molt a couple times within this time period, and they will continue to lay eggs sporadically for about 4 more years. So really they have a pretty long lifespan. And they can live up to 5 more years after even that period too, to be very nice companions at this point. Okay, like I said earlier, chickens can be kind of a gateway into other species. So once you have your chickens, you're having tons of fun with them, you'll probably start realizing that maybe you need a goat or, another little animal. So disclaimer, chickens are probably going to be so fun that you're going to be interested in getting some other animals too. So make sure you're prepared. Okay guys, so that's the end of my presentation today. If that's something that sounds interesting to you or something that you and your family can tackle, then I think congratulations, the chicks are ready to go home with you. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. My email is Hansen, Hansen, @landolakes.com, or call me with any questions. I'm really excited to help families get into chicks this year, or families that are interested in expanding their flocks. I'm very excited to help you guys with that. We also have a few programs going on right now, so feel free to reach out on ways that you can maybe save money on chicks or save money on feed. We're really excited to support the chick and chicken owners in our area this year. So thank you very much. Thanks for tuning in, and please feel free to ask any questions if you have any. All right, we'll talk to you later.